In a quiet, old neighborhood stood a house no one ever talked about. It was a grand Victorian home, once beautiful but now abandoned and decaying. The townsfolk whispered about it, calling it cursed, but no one dared go near, especially after the disappearance of the last family that lived there. The house had sat empty for years, until one day a young couple, Maria and James, decided to move in, eager to restore it and make it their home. The locals warned them, but they brushed off the rumors as nothing more than old ghost stories. The first few weeks were uneventful, filled with hard work and renovation. But one afternoon, while cleaning out the dusty attic, Maria found something strange tucked away in a corner. A small, old-fashioned porcelain doll, dressed in a faded, tattered dress with a face that was eerily lifelike. Its glassy blue eyes seemed to glint in the low light, and its cracked lips were curled into a faint, unsettling smile. It was just a doll, after all. She placed it on a shelf in the living room, thinking it might add a bit of character to the otherwise empty space. That night, strange things started happening. As they lay in bed, Maria and James heard faint giggling echoing through the house. At first, they thought it was the wind, but the laughter became louder and more distinct, like that of a little girl. When James went to check, he found nothing. The house was still, and the doll sat in its place, motionless, its cold eyes staring blankly ahead. The next day, Maria swore she had left the doll facing the window, but when she returned from running errands, it was turned toward the door, its smile somehow looking wider. She mentioned it to James, who joked that maybe the doll was just finding its spot, but deep down, she felt uneasy. That night, the giggling returned, louder this time, and now accompanied by the sound of tiny footsteps pattering across the floor. When James got up to investigate, he saw the doll sitting in the hallway outside their bedroom, though they had left it in the living room. His heart raced as he picked it up and returned it to the shelf, convinced they were just overworking themselves and imagining things. But the next morning, the real horror began. Maria woke up to find muddy footprints leading from the back door into the living room, stopping right in front of the doll. The footprints were small, like those of a child. Panicked, she checked the door. It was locked from the inside. No one had come in. As the days passed, the doll began appearing in different rooms, always in a place where neither of them had left it. Sometimes its head would be tilted at an odd angle, or its arms would be positioned as if it had moved. The giggling turned into whispering at night, faint words that neither Maria nor James could understand. But they were sure the voice was coming from the doll. One night, as Maria laid in bed, she felt something cold brush against her leg. She bolted upright and screamed when she saw the doll sitting at the foot of the bed, its glassy eyes staring directly at her. James grabbed it and threw it into the attic, locking the door behind him, but the whispers only grew louder, more menacing. The final straw came when Maria found a note scrawled in childlike handwriting on the wall near the bedroom. "Let me out." Terrified, the couple decided to leave the house immediately. They packed their bags in the middle of the night, ready to abandon everything. But as they were about to leave, they heard a loud crash from upstairs. The attic door had burst open. Maria hesitated, her eyes wide with terror. James urged her to leave, but something compelled her to go upstairs, as if the doll was calling her. Against her better judgment, she crept up to the attic, heart pounding in her chest. The door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing the dark, dusty space. There, in the center of the room, sat the doll, its head turned at an unnatural angle, grinning up at her. And this time, it wasn't alone. Dozens of other dolls had appeared, surrounding it. Dolls that hadn't been there before, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. And in a voice that was no longer just a whisper, the doll in the center spoke. "Stay and play with us." Maria screamed, backing away, but the attic door slammed shut behind her. James rushed to open it, but it wouldn't budge. He pounded on the door, calling her name, but the only sound he heard was the soft, eerie giggling from the other side. When the police arrived the next day, they found the house empty, the doors wide open. Maria and James were gone, with no trace left behind, except for the doll, sitting in the living room, smiling its cold, sinister smile. And when the officers turned to leave, one of them swore he heard a soft voice whisper, "We're not done playing yet."